The Emerald Lake. Once upon a time there was a farmer who needed his new business to prosper, but his produce wasn't big enough to appear on any rosters. The farmer heard of many methods to make his produce appear wiser. The best method by far seemed to be fertilizer. He started off cautious, using a bit at a time, but he started investing more as his business began to climb. As the rainy season came, fertilizer washed into the stream. The fertilizer flowed down to the lake, where many creatures lay unseen. This happened with the animals' manure, and it ended in the lake. Adding more phosphorus and nitrogen became a huge mistake. The farmer was oblivious to the dangers of his decisions. Fertilizers caused algae blooms, worse than you can envision. It had high concentrations of phosphorus and nitrogen, both elements that help algae boom in population. Too much of those components caused an algae bloom, where algae invades, causing sea creatures to run out of room. But the farmer continued to fertilize his crops, at the expense of many organisms. He had to stop. Years later, the lake became overrun with algae, taking up oxygen when it decomposed. It was sad to see. The consequences of this was so extreme it seemed irrational. Sadly, lack of oxygen suffocated the aquatic animals. This phenomenon is known as eutrophication. Algae takes up space, leaving creatures out of the equation. Terrestrial animals weren't safe and they couldn't escape. They would try to drink from the contaminated lake. The lake was now a sickening color of emerald green. It was now a dead zone. Everyone could see. No more creatures called this lake their home. It was called the Emerald Lake to represent what had grown. It was later found out the cause was the innocent farmer. Although it was an accident, it had to be stopped before it went farther. He wanted to help but needed his crops to continue growing faster. This wasn't a problem, it was a full-on disaster. After brainstorming possible solutions, he thought he struck glory. The farmer planted along his property, or so it says in the story. The locals helped too, planting vegetation along the river. It acted like a wall, accumulating the elements further. Instead of using his manure to fertilize his crops, he used it to fertilize his many houseplants so they could pop. Despite their valiant efforts, life did not return for years. The damage was done, the consequences clear. It took 35 years for the lake to recover, all because of one farmer who didn't realize creatures would suffer. But the story isn't over quite yet. You can prevent other lakes from reaching the same fate by doing a few things. Eating less meat can reduce animal waste polluting our waters. Communities can save up for a bubbler, which help the water on the surface keep moving, which prevents algae from growing. Donating to charities that clean lakes can help them stop problems before they start.
The lakes, they need help from people like you. If we all lend a hand, the algae won't bloom.